Hey everybody, this is Arthur Aday with Today in Telos. And we have some really special people here today. Anna?
Hi, Arthur.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You finally made it.
Yes.
All right. Hey, let's talk about what your modality is for helping people.
Sure. Okay. Well, my current modality is something that I call ecstatic radical forgiveness.
Wow, ecstatic radical forgiveness.
Yeah, because it's really ecstatic once we learn how to do it. And forgiveness is such an important part of the spiritual path.
Yes.
And also emotionally, it's really important. So
yeah.
Turns out it affects all levels of our being to be able to forgive.
Yes, and a lot of people miss out on doing that before the people die.
Yeah. In fact, I've been working with hospice patients recently.
Oh, hospice.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of people that need that forgiveness.
Well, that was my intention, and I'm learning a lot from it too, that right before the end of this lifetime, before we pass over, there's probably some regrets and some things that aren't feeling peaceful, so I go and talk to the people about that before they pass and their families. We have a wonderful hospice program here in Siskiyou County.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, very, very excellent people.
And what is that? When you say you have a wonderful hospice here in this area, what do we have for that?
Well, there's hospice in southern Siskiyou County and in northern Siskiyou County.
Okay.
So what I've learned from doing hospice too is that while it's excellent to help the people that are about to pass, the message that keeps coming to me is, why wait? Why wait until we're, at death's door, so to speak, to take care of the things that are unfinished business, basically, that are feeling painful inside of us.
Exactly.
And that's what this forgiveness work is all about.
And how does that work when a person feels forgiven, but they don't feel forgiven, and they go beyond that, and people, isn't it like a resistance, a buildup?
Well, there's a difference between the traditional model of forgiveness and the extended, more expanded model that I teach. Right. So it's really important to get the difference, and when I teach workshops and I have more time, I go really more deeply into it. But in a nutshell, if you're thinking of the word forgiveness, you're probably thinking about the traditional model. In the traditional model, we say, gee, something really terrible happened, usually to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes something terrible happened and I did it, or you did it, right? But in any case, there's some kind of crime that occurred.
Right.
Something wrong happened, and we don't feel at peace with whatever that was. And every single one of us, has something or other, unless we're already enlightened. But for most of us, there's still some grist for the mill going on there. Some kind of painful thing. Could have been a childhood thing, could be a divorce, could be a business situation, could be an illness, where we just really don't feel peaceful. So in the traditional model, what happens is we say, well, I'm going to let go of this.
Right.
I'm going to just let bygones be bygones. I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. I'm going to forgive, which is great, except there's no real map of how to do it. Yeah. And a lot of times we do it from here, but not necessarily from our gut, or from our heart.
From the heart.
Yeah. So in this expanded model, we do it as a spiritual path, actually. So it starts with something that is painful for us, but then it goes a lot further into helping us understand, why did this happen? Not from a mental point of view, but from a soul point of view. What's the lesson here? What's the gift inside of the situation, no matter how terrible it was?
Right. Like when my mother passed away, there was things that I wished I could have said, but because of the illness, I didn't want to approach that. And it was sad to let her go, because when she died, I could hear her calling my name, and I'm like, where are you? I can hear you, but where are you? And then I find out she passed away. It's like, wow. But I could hear her. Like the same with my father. If I wanted to deal with my father, it was always, I had to go find him. And that's where we left off. But when he died, I could hear him. I woke up, I looked at the clock, it was 10 a.m. I'm like, why is this sticking out? And then I heard him call my name. My family name is Skipper. And I heard him calling my name. I heard him say, Skipper, Skipper, I'm over here. And I wake up, I look at the clock, and I say, it's 10 o'clock? Why am I hearing my dad calling my name? And I hear him say, call your brother, he's trying to get a hold of you. So I call him, and my brother's going, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I'm like, yeah, Dad just told me. And he said, Dad just told you? Dad had passed away. I go, I know, he just told me. And it was just incredible. And I could hear my dad say, how do you know how to do this? Where did you learn how to do this, is what he said.
So what you're bringing up is that a lot of times we have certain kind of communication with the ones that we love that isn't necessarily physical, which really comes in handy when we want to clear the air and come into deep peace with somebody who's either not available or not in this lifetime anymore, but we can still do the forgiveness work, whether they're in a body or not.
Right.
So that's important to know. Also, you're bringing up your parents, which is a lot of times where some of the initial trauma and pain and fear comes in, and what happens when we're really young. And I wrote a book recently, I wrote a chapter in a book.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Why You Still Need to Forgive Your Parents.
Yeah.
And how you can
do it. That would be perfect for me, yes.
Yeah, and so a lot of people really can use that help in terms of forgiveness in this more expanded model, where we're forgiving our parents because we really want to be able to come into freedom. So it becomes less about the actual person or the actual incident and more about unlayering.
Oh, here's your book. Now this is really good. Go on, go on.
It's more about unlayering everything that's in between ourselves and our God consciousness. So that's where the expansion comes in.
Okay.
So it's not so much, oh, I need to forgive this one person and then I'll be done. It's actually realizing, oh, this forgiveness path is a spiritual path. And as I start taking off all these veils of what's in between me and total peace and complete communion with love, then I realize so much, we learn so much about ourselves in the process, and we come into a state of union that's not available to us until we do this kind of work.
Oh, okay. All right.
Can't skip over this stuff.
So how would a person process before a person dies? How would we process this?
Well, on my website, I have a free download. It's called the Prayer Sandwich.
Okay.
So
The
Prayer Sandwich.
Oh.
I also have a CD in which I go through this whole process.
Okay.
It's called The Healing Power of Forgiveness. Wow. And I can't really, in the time that we have, take everybody through this process because it does take a little while. But the components of it are realizing, first of all, what are the feelings that are coming up? What's the deep emotional constriction that goes with our memory of whatever happened? And it could be something that happened to us, somebody else did it, or it could be that we did something to somebody else. So there's a lot of emotion there. And we really need to get past all the denial that comes up. Oh, I'm done with that. Oh, it's okay. Oh, I've forgiven that person because they really didn't know what they were doing that day. That's not the kind of forgiveness we're talking about. We're talking about going really deep inside, really, really being compassionate with everything that we find, and releasing it.
And that is important because if you don't release it, you end up holding on to that, right?
Well, Yeah, everybody that has an ego, an intact ego, has some forgiveness work to do.
Okay.
And that's the thing, when we start peeling off these layers, we just get lighter and lighter and more happy and more peaceful and more available to listening to our inner wisdom.
There.
Yeah.
Very good. That's very good that you said that. So how many people out there today are stuck when their parents die? They get stuck.
Well, yeah, parents might still be alive.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But really what we do is we learn to take responsibility for what's going on inside of us, that there's really no place to blame someone, no matter what they did. Although I will say that there is a place for rehab and jail and prison and learning new ways. And I also teach some of that anger management, peace education, violence prevention. We need to do all of that as well.
Right.
So that works on this plane of humans interacting with each other, humans being violent with each other. So I'm not saying to anybody, hey, if there's something really, really traumatic that happened, you should just skip over it somehow and just forgive without really contacting
it takes
the intensity of it.
forgiveness. We have to work through that. It's just not me forgiving myself or anybody else, but it's us, Mother, Father, that we have to work through this. Am I right?
Yeah, well, for me, the point of it is to really have a direct experience with love itself, with divine love. And so I come to it with a real passion for the direct experience, the mystical experience. And I realized, okay, well, what's in the way?
Yes.
And if we look at it that way and we think of each person has their own particular story, their own karmic path, however you want to say that. And so each one of us has treasures inside of that, even the most terrible things that have happened. So that yes, they were possibly very, very horrendous here, but spiritually they've got great gifts for us. And the forgiveness is the bridge that brings us to the gifts. And then we calm down.
Yeah, we do.
And we feel much more peaceful when we get that soul lesson that comes.
You know, when you say that, calming down, well, like my father's experience, because I could hear him talking to me, and yet I was like trying to explain to my brother that, hey, this is what's happening to me. I'm hearing Dad say that I need to call you because you're trying to get a hold of me.
So
Do you have many people hearing the people passing over?
Not necessarily. I mean, I haven't done the hospice work enough to be able to answer that question.
Okay, and that's something coming up.
But in the way, the way that I could respond to that is that you had the inner ability to listen, and that gets better and better and better the more we take care of the places where we've really felt a lot of fear and despair and pain and sorrow. So that's why the forgiveness is the bridge. Forgiveness is the bridge from the experience of having an ego and feeling separate and alone and afraid in whatever situation it might be. And then we get to the more subtle levels where we realize, oh, that may be happening quite a lot inside of our own thoughts.
Yes.
So that brings up the most important part, which is forgiving ourselves.
That's it. You know, I've been actually doing situations where people come in my life, and I go, wow, why is it that I feel guilty, or I feel this shame about my family dying? And I said, well, hey, if I need to let go, I need to forgive myself for the argument, for the dissatisfaction of having my family leaving. There is actually guilt feelings there.
Yeah, and sometimes we just get angry at God
Yeah.
itself, himself, herself, however we imagine our Creator, sometimes there's a forgiveness there for, hey, what am I doing in this life, and why did it turn out this way?
Exactly.
God abandoned me, or whatever it might be. And that brings up a lot of deep, deep feelings inside that really, the way that I teach it is to really release all of that so that it can be offered to the Holy One, offered to the Holy Spirit, offered to the grace, so that there's a place to put it.
Yeah.
And then we receive so much. We have to make room, though, and we have to choose it, because nobody's going to do this for us.
Nobody's going to do it unless you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And when you realize, and this is getting through that feeling of I've abandoned them or they've abandoned me.
Yeah, it's a very, very tender place.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with this whole process in your as a business, right?
Well, yeah, my profession is as a forgiveness counselor, and I offer individual sessions and sessions for couples, and I've worked a lot with people who are either very, very serious about their spiritual path, and or people who have been through really traumatic things, and they feel really stuck. How am I going to get past this really terrible thing that happened? So both of those, and sometimes it's the same person, right? And I also teach workshops, and I teach college classes, and I just get the word out as best I can.
Right. Now you work with what was the place that you said you worked with? I'm sorry.
I have worked for the last 8 years or so with some of the men that are in San Quentin prison.
Oh, there you go, San Quentin.
Yeah.
And so how are they dealing with bringing you on board for them to release their feelings?
Yeah. Well, in San Quentin, it happens to be a prison where there are a lot of great programs. And the one that I work with is the Insight Prison Project. And that's based out of the Bay Area.
Okay, yeah. It's out of San Quentin, but it's in the...
Your phone's ringing.
Huh?
Your phone's ringing.
Hey, somebody wants me.
Someone wants in on this
conversation. Hey, but the whole idea is that that they're in San Quentin, they've done something really wrong in their life, and they feel guilty about it somewhere along the line. They have plenty of time to think about it, right?
They do. A lot of times they think about it for years and years. They have to sit there with it.
Especially if they're there for years, lifetime prison.
Some of them have been in there for a very long time, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So the guys themselves, a lot of them that I've worked with, they're incredibly sincere people. And it doesn't mean that their crime didn't have a really huge impact on a lot of people. However, once they've been in there for a while, some of them decide that they really want to be free. And so they start using the prison as an ashram. And they start really waking up. And those are the guys that, some of them that I work with, and I'm very honored to
and how long
teach
have you been
them
working
and learn from them.
There with these different people? How long?
Well, how long have I been doing it? Yeah. I've been doing it for 8 years.
8 years?
Since I don't live close by, I don't get there very often.
Right.
But I used to go about once a month.
Wow.
For about 6 years I did that.
And that is actually, I mean, people get involved with religion and things like that, right? When they're in prison, they start getting involved with religion, forgiveness, and things like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, actually, getting the forgiveness work into the prison hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
I teach other things in the prison as well, because I teach a lot of different kinds of peace education. Communication skills, conflict resolution. I teach about gender, men and women. Yeah. Wow. So I teach a lot of things in the prison, and then just recently I've been able to start getting this forgiveness process in there. But there was some hesitation. Not on the part of the guys, but on the part of the bureaucracy, whether this would be okay, because for a lot of people, they feel like, well, the guys in prison, they shouldn't learn how to forgive. They shouldn't forgive themselves. They should stay there and be punished. So this is really a different...
the guilt punishes them.
It's a different model from punishment. And so that's pretty new for a lot of us, especially in the Western world, because we're taught, okay, something wrong happens, one person who's the persecutor should be guilty and punished, the other person who's the victim should get lots of sympathy. But in this model, we look at it more as, okay, here are two souls that have come together. These souls are eternal.
Right.
So this is temporary.
Right.
And in the eternal place, you can never be harmed.
Yeah.
None of us have ever been harmed in that way. But we come down here, we have a human life, and then we are.
Yeah.
So taking that apart and understanding what level is on what, and what should we do appropriate to what the level is. If it's a human level, then yes, we need to have prisons and halfway houses and rehab and all that. But if it's the spiritual level, then we need to learn to see every single person as an innocent child of God.
It's amazing.
And what's it going to take for us to feel that way? And that means a lot of emotion and thoughts have to be released. Otherwise, they'll go around and around and around.
and round and round. You know, I have, in my last 20 years, I suppose, I have had the feeling of needing to forgive other people for what they've done to me. But then I learned I should be forgiving myself for allowing myself to let that been done to me. Is that the wrong way of thinking?
Well, sometimes especially when we're kids, we have no control.
Yeah.
Over,
especially a parent beating you and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So really, there is a certain amount of surrender to what the lifetime has been thus far. But by the time we get to be adults, then yes, we do need to learn to speak up.
Yeah.
But also, the ultimate forgiveness is self-forgiveness.
Wow.
Because it is the place where we have walked away from our own God consciousness, and that's the spot.
That's the spot. See,
that's
what people are needing to learn is the God consciousness, right?
Well, yeah, there's nothing that needs to be added to our God consciousness. But this work, we just keep taking the layers off, the layers that we made. The fear, the pain, the anger, all of that. It's part of our human experience, and we're learning how to navigate that.
Exactly.
So there's nothing wrong with it.
That's good.
It's just that it can be used on behalf of our spiritual path. And that's what I call forgiveness.
That's it. You know, because my father left my mother, and when she left, it was like, I didn't get to say goodbye to him. He never said goodbye to me. And when I felt like I really needed to stop things, there was, I had to search for him and sit down with him and go, hey, Dad, I forgive you for what you did. And then he looks at me and goes, what did I do? Well, you left. You left when I needed a man in the house. I was 12 years old. That has a lot to do with how I react to other people.
Right. So there's a lesson there for you.
Yeah.
There's a lesson inside of your own psyche. And from a spiritual point of view, we might say, well, you came down into that family for exactly those circumstances so that you could wake up inside of whatever that was about. So that the radical part of radical forgiveness is that your dad was being himself exactly how you needed for him to be. Now that's a stretch for most people. So we need to work through all the emotion also. You know, the sadness and whatever else you went through.
The abandonment.
Yeah.
The abandonment. You know, we only have 2 more minutes. That just went by so too quick. We need another half hour on this. So let's do another show.
Okay.
All right?
Sure.
Let's do another show. Maybe in January, February? Are you going to be around?
I don't know, but we'll
We'll
I'll be
have
around
to
for
wait.
part of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's do that. Let's plan for another one. And where are we at? You folks out there that want more information, we have website and phone numbers for you.
Right, and I do want to mention that I have 4 free downloads on my website. So people can come. You can also call me for free if you're interested in doing a consultation about a private session, because I feel like it's important for everybody to be able to talk to me, find out if it's right, and that's completely free. So feel free to call me or email me, get those downloads, and start your forgiveness process.
Yes, it's got to start.
Or continue it if you're already on the journey.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. And like I said, we come back and do another show with me.
Thank you very
much. All right.
Arthur.
So that's it, folks. This is a very important thing that we have to do in our life, is to forgive ourselves and forgive others. Do we forgive others?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll see you all later. Blessings to you. And again, thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you, Arthur.
All right.
Great to be here.
A little hard to getting started. We'll see you all later.